In this video I will show you a little known and very fun gambit. At the beginning of the game we will play a winning position by surprising our opponent with a variant that he is unlikely to see before. The game starts with the move e4 e5. We start the game with the Italian opening with knight f3 and bishop c4. When our opponent plays knight f6 and chooses the two-knight defense, we have the option to play more than one move. The most played move is knight g5. For a more positional game, the second most preferred move is d3. Instead of these two popular moves, we will play a move to open the center and put pressure on the opponent's e5 pawn. The opponent's most common move is to take the pawn with his pawn. Here, instead of trading pieces, we are castling and sacrifice another pawn. If the opponent accepts the sacrifice and takes the pawn on e4, we are approaching the position we want to play. Here, the first move that comes to mind is moving the rook to e1 square. However, instead of that, we will start our gambit with a move that truly seems absurd. Not enough pawn sacrifices, we sacrifice a knight. When our opponent accepts the sacrifice, as you can see, we have opened up the file for our queen. However, we won't be playing with the queen here, we'll make another sacrifice. Yes, that's right. We made another sacrifice. Did we? I'm not trolling you. Am I? You have 3 seconds to think about whether or not I'm trolling you. The answer is yes, there are too many sacrifices in this gambit. The aim here is to weaken the opponent's king and get the right to castle. There is a huge advantage for white in this position. After checking with the queen, here, the opponent is very likely to retreat their king to the starting square. The computer move is king to g6. It's a move that exposes your king even more, so it's a very difficult move to find. Your opponent will not want to go to king h6 because after the queen takes the knight it will be very difficult for your opponent. So let's look at king to e8. After the king moves to the central square, the first move that might come to mind is capturing the knight with a check. However, this move is definitely not a good one. The important point here is that we have sacrificed a lot of our pieces, and we are behind in material. In this situation, we will use the advantageous positions we have. The advantageous positions are that the opponent's king is in the center, unable to castle, and their pieces are far from being developed. Therefore, we play the move rook to e1 with the intention of capturing the opponent's knight with our rook. If our opponent is not familiar with this gambit, they are in for a challenging game. These are the most common moves played in this position. Look at the winning rate of the white side. Only on queen f3 black can stay in a good position, and that's a hard move to find. Before analyzing that variant, let's look at the most played move bishop to e7. Now we capture the knight with the rook and pin the bishop. In this position, the most played move by the opponent is d6. We increase the pressure on the pinned bishop. We will soon bring the other rook to e1, maximizing the pressure on the pinned piece to the fullest. The most common move for the opponent is rook to f8. When we bring the last rook into play and complete our piece development, the opponent's most common response to this move is to bring their rook to f7, adding protection to their bishop. We take the bishop. The opponent tends to prefer capturing our bishop with the knight. Now we are attacking the opponent's rook. The most common opponent move is to attack the queen with the rook. First, we check with our queen, and then when the opponent's king moves, we capture the knight with the rook, winning the trade. I'm confident you'll win the game from here. Now let's go back and see what happens if the opponent captures our bishop with the rook instead of the knight in this position. Because the win rate has dropped from 72% to 57%, there seems to be an easy win there as well. First, we capture the rook with rook to e7. After the opponent captures with the knight on e7, we check with the queen. Then comes a brilliant move, knight to e5. The opponent is forced to accept this sacrifice as there is no square for the king to escape. After the opponent captures the knight on e5 with a pawn, we deliver another check with the rook. When the king moves, we check once more with the queen, and then capture the opponent's queen with the rook. Having seen these variations, we can say that the move bishop to g5 is a very strong move. Therefore, the opponent might try to stop our bishop and knight by playing h6. However, if they play this move, we have another brilliant move in store, bishop takes on h6. The opponent can't capture the bishop with the rook, as it would result in checkmate.
The rook!
They must capture with the pawn. After pawn takes on h6, the opponent's light squares are weakened. Queen to h5, check, then king to f8, we can now check with the rook. The opponent should block with the bishop to avoid checkmate in one move. Now, we play queen to g6. We win the game because shortly after capturing the opponent's bishop with our rook, the opponent has no viable solution to this move and they have to sacrifice their queen. Here, there's only one move that can challenge us, and only 7% of players of this variation have found it. This is because, when we look at the position in general, white's pieces are well placed for an attack, and the opponent needs to play the queen before developing their pieces. This move is not easy to find. If you wonder why the move queen to f6 is much better compared to other moves, let's take a look at that variation. We take the opponent's knight with our rook once more. After these moves, since the queen entered the game early, black is playing in a less cramped position. In the other variations I showed, the queen couldn't move from its starting square. In this variation, black can even consider a queen trade. However, given that we are behind in material, trading queens is not favorable for us, so we move our queen to avoid the trade. In this position, the black side is clearly superior. In fact, when black gains time by attacking our rook with a pawn and develops their bishop, they are in an even better position. If the opponent is unfamiliar with this gambit, they can lose instantly even in this position. For example, if they play h6 and attack our bishop, we capture their bishop. Then, by forming a battery with our other rook, we can win the pinned knight and secure victory. Finally, you can't win every game with this gambit. After all, we are playing a gambit with too many sacrifices. The opponent will probably not understand what you are doing and you will most likely win the game, but I am sure you will have a lot of fun even if you lose once in a while. If you'd like to see more gambits like this, don't forget to hit the like button. If you have a specific opening or gambit in mind that you'd like me to create a video about, feel free to mention it in the comments.